Hey there, YouTubies! I just thought that as I have a bit of a long drive going on today, that I would talk a little bit about HSP and what that is, and at the very least, how I experience it. And I say that because it affects lots of different people in different ways. It's a very broad thingy. So, HSP, what is it? It is Hereditary Spastic Paraplegia, which is quite comical name, I've always thought. And it affects around about 1 in 100,000 people, according to the fan club statistics. And by fan club, I mean support group. And I was probably about 23, I think, when I was officially diagnosed with presumed HSP. And they say presumed because it's subject to a lot of genetic mapping, and until that flag's positive, you know, they can't actively say that there's a gene behind it. So essentially what happens is, you know, they call it hereditary, but it's not necessarily that your parents actively have to have it. It just means that when your parents have woohoo, some genes will meet and they'll go, nah, I'm not into you at all, or they'll just kick off and go wrong, and then congratulations, you now have cocked up genes that are going to make the rest of your life slightly more miserable. So you got to thank your parents for that. I mean, obviously it's not their fault because people don't know about it, so there's that. Anyway, what are we talking about? HSP, Hereditary Spastic Paraplegia. So how did I find out that I had it? Well, when I was a young small bean child, my mother and my nan and a few other relatives noticed that I was walking peculiarly. My feet were rolling in and my gait was strange and a few other things. And they also made some observations that could be summed up under the weird kid umbrella. And so I was taken to the doctors, and the doctor referred me to this children's assessment hospital, and I used to get picked up on my own with a little minibus from primary school and taken to the children's assessment unit. And just to add maybe insult to injury, primary school had decided that they thought I was intelligent. Backhanded compliment. So I missed reception class, the formative year, and was put in the class above with older people who didn't like me, and I was sat on my own. And then eventually I had to stay in that class for 2 years because I had to catch up with the people who were behind me, that was my school year, who then didn't know me, and then they weren't fast either, for a while at least. So that was fun. So as well as that, I'd get picked up by this bus and taken to this children's unit and assessed. Now, I don't really remember a whole bunch of it, but I do remember things like the hydrotherapy, and I remember that they used to give me a lot of puzzles and things to solve, and problems and things like that. And they were basically like, yeah, alright, his hamstrings are a bit tight, he's dyspraxic, and also we think that he's on the autistic spectrum. And that was pretty much it. Yeah, just, you know, raise him up normal, he'll sort of pan out and work out. And that was that, really. So, growing up, whenever I thought about leg pain and the body pain and those sorts of things, I actually just kind of assumed that it was normal and that everybody experienced that. And you know, I went back to the doctors in my sort of early teens, and they said, oh yes, he has hypotonia. Oh, that was it. I even got diagnosed with clumsy child syndrome. Yeah, that's what later became dyspraxia. Oh, he keeps falling over nothing, and I couldn't jump, I couldn't tie my shoelaces, and I just walk into shit all the time, and that kind of rubbish. So that's where that came from. And yeah, then it was hypertonia, and it was like, yeah, he should do sports to improve that, because when he has a growth spurt, it's going to be fucking hell. And it was hell, actually. That pain just grew and grew, and in my early 20s, and I kept going back, and eventually they sent me to see a neurologist, and he dragged a needle up the bottom of my foot, and he noticed that my toes reflex the wrong way. I've always been remarked brisk reflexes, plantar reflexes, brisk, and he was like, oh yeah, that's not supposed to happen. You've got HSP. That's a sure fucking as close as we'll get to an answer. They suspected cerebral palsy for a while, Charcot-Marie-Tooth syndrome, which I always assumed was mutually exclusive to HSP, but I've since spoken to people who have both, and various other different things. So that was what was decided. So then the next issue was to look at gene mapping, which has implications that I don't fully understand, but as far as I'm aware, if you undergo gene mapping, that goes on your kind of permanent record. Is that my dad up on that bridge? Nah, it looked like it. I thought it was my dad there, and he walks over there, and I was going to shout at him, but it's not him. So primary school wasn't great, because from what I kind of recall, I felt like a social outcast. My desk was more often than not on its own, usually at the front of the class. Like, why? I don't know. I used to get in trouble for, like, not even things I didn't even do. I'll never forget this one thing. John Harmon, if you're watching this, I'll never forgive you. So, class 5, Mr. Webb, he had this amazing screensaver that would be a painting itself. I think it was Monet, usually Monet. He was a big fan of Monet. And I used to get fascinated with this screensaver, watching it paint this thing. And on this particular day, a majority of the class, nearly all of the class, was outside using these little Roma robots where they coordinate them and they move across the floor. I love those things. I don't think I ever got to use them in primary school because of this day. So for some reason, I'm not included in that. Go figure. And I have to go and get this textbook that lives under this computer. So I go and get this textbook, and of course I interrupt the mouse and the screensaver goes off. So I figure, well, I'll just stand there and wait for it to come back on, and I can enjoy watching this screensaver again. And at that moment, John Harmon, this kiddie that I've known my entire life, walks in and sees me stood by the computer. And I'm like, hey, John, how's it going? Or whatever. And he goes back out. And then in a few minutes, Mr. Webb walks in, absolutely livid, tamping, and insists out the class, throws me out the class, go and see the headmistress. Why are you using the computer? You don't have permission to be on the computer. I wasn't on the computer, I was just waiting for the screensaver to load up. Don't backchat me. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, isn't he rude? Isn't he rude? Well, Mr. Webb, if you're still out there, I don't know if you're a teacher or what, but fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck Mrs. Edwards, and fuck all the teachers at primary school, other than Mrs. Modgett, Mrs. Parr, and Mr. O'Sullivan, who I didn't even have as a teacher. But all the others, you can get fucked, okay? So that's for fucking ruining my formative years. John Harmon, you get fucked for that as well. Nah, you're alright. Fucking twat. Anyway, my love for the education system completely burnt out once we got into comprehensive school anyway. That was next level animalistic fucking tyranny right there. I had 3 gym teachers. One who was a all-out aggressive nonce. I think he went down for being a nonce. He was a noncey twat. What was his name? Mr. Brown. There was Mr. Pritchard, he was pretty safe, and there was another guy, Mr. Reed, who was a proper rugby boy, who genuinely thought that he was helping me, I guess. So, whatever. But I fucking hated games. I hated all of that. The only thing I didn't hate was swimming. Big up Mr. Mills, taught a whole generation of people how to swim, and even me. And when I swim, my left leg is like Nemo's fin. It just flops around and does nothing. I can't control it. And he was like, that's okay, you don't need all your legs to swim. So hats off to him, that was great. I feel like I've digressed, but I don't really care. I told you this would be what Hsp is for me, so that's what the story is. In my early 20s then, I was feeling pretty down, feeling pretty low. My body wasn't very good, and I got this diagnosis, which is something I've been chasing for a while, because no one wants to have something wrong with them and not know what it is, especially when you've got dozens of different people thinking that they know what's best for you, and all having different ideas, and you're just there in the middle like, hey, I just want to play Lego and get on with everybody, fuck. So I got this diagnosis, I got tested for the gene mapping thing, and it came back negative. And so now it was about trying different medications to help with the pain and these kinds of things. And boy, oh boy, was that an experiment. And that went on for a few years and made for some quite misty fugue state pockets of my life where I don't even feel like the person was even me. I was given cocodamol, Zapanes, which I still take. They're an effective pain reliever. They're also very addictive, and when you start taking them, it's quite difficult to stop taking them. I was taking 40 milligrams of citalopram. I was taking 2 cocodamol 3500s 4 times a day, so that's 8 in total. I was prescribed tramadol, which I really struggled with, gabapentin, which is great if you want to be a lethargic, useless mess with everything else. I was prescribed a drug called carvolevodopa, which is a Parkinson's medication, which is given to you to help reduce spasms. Now, spasms, I haven't really talked about the side effects or the effects of hereditary spastic paraplegia all that much. So what is it? Basically, it's this neuromuscular disease, neurological disease based on defective genes. Your nervous system, as I understand it, is sending out the wrong messages and mixed signals, and chances are at the same time that you might not be formed quite right. For example, you can have tight hamstrings, your ankles hypermobile, your muscle tone is weak, all these kinds of things, these extra components, if you like. And with that you can experience pain. Not everybody does. Spasms, pins and needles, numbness, issues with registering sort of temperatures. So if I put my foot in the bath, I can't always differentiate between whether it's really hot or really cold. It's not pleasant, but I don't know quite what temperature it is. Same with rain. Rain on the skin can be quite overbearing, can't quite tell what it is. It's just an unpleasant sensation, if you like. And there are all manners of things that come with it as a result. Urge incontinency, that's a fun one, where you just need to go right away, no notice, nothing like that. And in my early mid-20s, spasms were quite an issue, and I still suffer with them now. I don't get the tremors as often as I used to. They might have been put on by different medications doing different things. But yes, carbidopa is an insane drug, and I could probably talk about that for a long time, so maybe we'll put that in a different video or something. Trimethropin was another drug I was put on, which is another member of the SSRI family, which is essentially the painkillers that adjust your brain chemistry or signal output rather than just sort of numbing it. You know, it actually actively modifies what's going on in your mind. Same with gabapentin and pregabalin, which is another two I tried. They were always desperate to put me on amitriptyline, which I've never got into taken because it's fucking horrendous. And I mean, trimethropin is horrendous because you stop sweating and you don't produce saliva. So something that happened during the course of time that I was on trimethropin is my teeth fell apart. So that's great. Now my teeth are fucked. Yeah, so a real smorgasbord of drugs, a lot of which I weaned myself off over a longer period of time. You know, I think I took a year and a half to come off citalopram because I didn't want to take that anymore, and I tiered down the carbidopa, the gabapentin, the trimethropin, which I was on for a very short period of time. What else did I have? Anti-inflammatories, not ibuprofen. Ibuprofen's slightly bigger brother. Can't remember what it's called at the moment. I'll put it along the thing or something at the bottom, whatever. So yeah, Supremo medicated, and that wasn't great. But where are we now? So I think generally I've got more of a handle on it all now than I have before. Something that's helped that I've had access to now are the orthotics. So I've always had insoles in my shoes for as long as I can remember. They're always useful. I've got knee supports to help strengthen my knee. My knees drop, or you know, they can't always take sort of my weight, and they'll start to go. I used to fall over a lot because of that. And my foot drops, so as I'm approaching a curb I can lift my foot up and it will just go like meh, like it's just released itself. And which is why I stumble and a lot and those sorts of things, and fall up and down the stairs. Not so much down the stairs anymore, more sort of up the stairs. I've got a new Nordic ski that you might have seen. I try not to walk with a stick all of the time because, you know, it can create more issues than it can help. But sometimes if I'm going a particular distance, it's nice to have that just so I can... Wow, these guys are in a rush, coming past all these speed cameras, doing way more than the speed. There we go. So yeah, the walking stick is, Jesus, definitely helpful, as are all of the other orthotics. So medication that I take now is cocodamol, but I take 2-3 times a day, sometimes less. That was just a personal decision to try and reduce the amount I was taking. You know, codeine isn't necessarily great. You know, it's not great for your liver, which is one of the reasons I don't drink anymore. There was a point during my mid-20s where I was experiencing physical and mental pain, and one of the solutions to that was to find somebody that had OxyContin and consume that OxyContin in a flat somewhere with a bunch of people I didn't know and just get absolutely fucking monged. Because with HSP, relaxation is physically impossible, short of that nice feeling you get post-orgasm, unless I'm slamming muscular sedatives or opiates into my face, my muscles are just tense all of the time. They just don't relax. I mean, look at my shoulders right now. They are up here. I cannot drop them without something else going crazy, you know? So you get desperate and you go and you smash opiates into your face, which is a terrible thing to do. I do not advise it. I would not do it again, probably, you know, unless I end up in that doldrums again, which I don't think is very likely. It can be an easy place to end up, you know. Man, some stories to tell. Anyway, right now, cocodamol 2-3 times a day, nice and easy. Propranolol. Now, this isn't necessarily to do with the HSP at all. Propranolol was prescribed to me for 2 reasons. One, to sort of help mitigating anxiety, which is again something else I could talk about for quite a long time, and also to help with reducing migraines. And yeah, if you live out there and you suffer from migraines, you straight up already know what it's like. And if you're out there and you suffer with migraines that make you puke your guts up all day, unrelentingly, even when there's nothing inside you, then we share something in common and we should be friends. We can base our whole friendship on the fact that we have migraines that make us sick. And when you have another issue which creates physical pain and muscle problems, spending a day being physically sick soon drags out to 2 to 3 days of feeling like absolute shit. So these migraines started coming on for me 2013, 2014, I think. They reached peak prevalence where I was having several a week. I have missed so many things: family gatherings, work, gigs, parties, all kinds of stuff as a result of these migraines, to a point where people just get fucking sick of you, really, and they'll just sort of stop talking to you or inviting you to things, or they just assume that you're a lazy slacker asshole who can't be bothered to do anything, when in fact you're just lying in bed with a cold flannel on your face, vomiting bile that's just ruining your already ruined teeth, and seriously considering, I mean, if there's anyone out there that has ever gone as far as putting a drill bit to their head with the intention of trepanning themselves to get the fucking demons from behind their head, comment, because I can't be alone in that. You know, you get desperate, absolutely desperate. And the craziest thing is actually that I had a partner who had hydrocephalus. So if any of you out there are familiar with aqueductal stenosis, you know, if there's anyone out there that's had a BP shunt fitted, and she had migraines that would piss on my migraines. They would make me look like I just had a mild headache, you know, and that was seeing her go through that was absolutely next level. You know, I couldn't even comprehend what that must be like when I think about how unbearable the migraines I get are and have been. Touch wood, I haven't been in that particular position of rolling around puking for a few weeks now, maybe even over a month, maybe even 2 months. You know, I do note them down, I have to check, but it's been a while, which is a great thing and a worrying thing at the same time, because, you know, I always feel like they are going to come, and sometimes they seem to block bookings. I think this is largely down to things like trying to mitigate stress, trying to change my diet, trying not to do certain things late at night, be a bit more aware of how long I'm sat at a screen, drinking more water. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I've kept food diaries, I've cut things out of my diets, I flat out stopped doing certain things, you know, for living in fear of these migraines. I have a medication that's called Trimethropin. You may have heard of it, you may take it. It comes in a tablet form, and you can get a liquid nasal inhaler as well. I have the liquid nasal inhaler, so if I feel a migraine coming on, I pop one of them at my nose, it zonks you the fuck out, you tend to go back to sleep, like it pulls you in, you have no choice, and when you wake up, there is what I would say a 1 in 3 chance that your migraine, you won't feel it, you know, really. You'll feel nauseous from the liquid, and you feel groggy, but you're not puking up, you're not rolling around trying to pull your own eye out. So it's a huge step forward. The drawback is that it's an expensive medication. Doctors aren't hugely fond of straight up recommending it. You have to kind of ask. And over the years, the companies that have made it, Immigram, have changed the name, changed certain things about this brand, and it becomes hard to get hold of. I'm not going to start getting into whether or not there's some crazy sumatriptan conspiracy theory, but it is the drug that every month I go to collect 6 inhalers. At best, I get given 2 and an IOU note, because I don't, they're like, oh, we haven't gotten it, we got to get it in, we got to find it, troubles. Yeah. But it is a fantastic medication if you suffer with migraines. I've tried the tablet form, but unfortunately, because of the whole sickness issue, it doesn't really work, you know. And I've had the under-the-tongue anti-sickness medications to try and take alongside, and it doesn't work. I was once advised to take aspirin, and that night will be remembered as the worst migraine that I ever had in my entire life. And it was so bad that the GP came to my house, which they don't fucking do anymore. But the GP came and was like, I need to see if you're gonna die. But anyway, my optician has decided to refer me into ophthalmology because he has observed something that I have observed, which is the fact that I have periods where I have one pupil will be substantially bigger than the other, or one is smaller than the other. You know, they don't line up. This isn't something that always happened in my life, and it feels like it started happening from the time that the migraine started, and I can't think of a reason why that happened other than the time that I walked into a metal shutter and banged my head and was concussed. And I went to hospital and they said I was fine. So until we get there, we won't really know. But my grandmother's got Horner's syndrome, which is very rare and commonly associated with lung cancer. Now, neither of us have lung cancer, and it's possible to have Horner's syndrome without lung cancer. It's all to do with the nerve that comes down along here and blah, 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 blah. And it causes issues around the eyes and muscles and can make your pupils change size. And she has that. I found this out recently. So, you know, maybe that's where it's coming from. I don't really know. Now, I get tight muscles around my eyes and it pulls in and I look like a pirate. Like this, you know? It's not constant, but it happens. My grandfather on my father's side, he has that. He has Botox injections around there to help keep his eye open. I don't really know why that is, but you know, things start to make sense. You have to start looking into things. The genetics department kind of asked me, you know, can you get some family history and find out what's wrong? And my family has a lot wrong with them in those sorts of ways. And you know, another sort of factor is that I'm sorry about this, mother, but when I was being born, I changed direction. I turned, you know, so they had to get the plunger plunging me out, and you know, my mum's account of this is quite traumatizing because, you know, she's there squeezing me out. I start changing direction. The doctors are like, oh shit, this isn't supposed to happen, get the plunger. So they get the plunger and they pull me out, and they're like, oh god, that doesn't look right, and they run out of the room and take me away, and then eventually they bring me back and they're like, yeah, he's fine. What the fuck? I could be anyone's baby. It's crazy. You know, they never told her what was going on or anything like that. Did I have oxygen? We don't fucking know. Did I fucking suffer any kind of brain damage? Well, in the run-up to that presumed diagnosis, I had a 90-minute MRI, full-body MRI, to check for any lesions or damage to my spine, my brain, and various other bits and pieces. And no, it was fine. They were like, nah, your brain is awesome. It is absolutely lit as fuck. Your spine is dope. It's brilliant. We've never seen a spine so fucking great. I mean, they didn't say that. They just said everything was okay. They couldn't see anything, and, you know, they don't know what's wrong with me, but whatever. You just got to sort of cope with it, you know. And that's pretty much all you can do. So yeah, that's HSP and me. You know, it fucks you up in all different ways at different times, and sometimes new things come along and sometimes they go away, you know. My tremors got really bad, then they got less bad. They get worse if I get stressed out or if I'm physically exhausted. I take baclofen in the evenings, 10 milligrams of baclofen. This is a muscular sedative, so I can't drive or do a whole lot else afterwards. But it's great for sort of helping me sleep and just helping my body kind of relax a bit, you know, because it's just like all day, all the time, just like a fucking scarecrow. Some people who have HSP, they take like 40 milligrams a day over the course of all of the day, you know, but I find it too hard to be any level of productive if I'm just sort of glooping around, you know. Not everyone gets glooped up the same way. You can build up tolerance to it and that kind of thing, but I like to sort of take it steady. So I got the cocodamol, that takes the edge off. That's fine. I don't take any SSRIs anymore because I just can't face going back to that lethargy, fugue state situation that I feel that I was in from before. I take the propranolol morning and night, which, you know, helps with anxiety and also helps reduce migraines, which I believe to be effective. And the sumatriptan when I feel the migraines coming on. And in terms of prescribed medications, that's about it right now. I take a algae oil supplement. I take vitamin D supplements. You know, it's just trying to spruce myself out a bit. And, you know, if I bathe, I use Epsom salts. Now, here's another thing. So, showering can be very difficult because of the issues with standing in the shower and getting myself up and across the bath. So, you know, you have to handrails and what have you. So it's nice to have a bath and a soak because it just helps the body feel relaxed, and to have bath salts and things can be quite nice as well. But I don't like to bath if I'm in the house on my own because I can't always get out of the bath. So I've taken to leaving a pair of emergency trunks near the bath, so that if my wife's away and I'm in the bath and I get stuck, I can call my housemate and hopefully he'll come and save me and won't have to be embarrassed by my tiny penis. No, it's like that. But yeah, you know, these are things that you have to kind of consider. Living alone with any debilitating physical, mental illness is difficult, you know, and it's very easy to feel like a burden. Absolutely. I mean, I could talk for hours on that, and I probably will. You know, you need help and assistance. Not always, but a lot of the time. Or you just need someone to be with you just in case, you know. I like to be very active in things, but I'm very reluctant to sort of go off anywhere on my own, because I might get stuck or too tired, or you know, bend down and I can't get back up, or any of these kinds of things, really. So it's not very often that I go really anywhere on my own beyond the kind of shop, or you know, if I walk into town with my walking stick. And you know, touch wood, it's been a long time since I have run into any kinds of issues, but I know that there's a handful of people that I could call upon, you know, that would be able to come and help me so I'm not sort of stuck on my own. And these are things that can attribute to the aforementioned anxiety. Yeah, kind of what it is, really. And you will go into areas of depression, because obviously being disabled sucks. Having a disability sucks. You know, people work really hard to own these things and to do what they can to live normally, you know, and there's always people who have it worse, you know, absolutely. But it doesn't negate the fact that at some point you will feel like shit, because you're just like, I have no value, and people have to keep checking up on me or looking after me, or I can't do that thing because, you know, my body is fucked. Or like I said, people will stop calling on you because they're like, oh wow, you know, we were meant to see this guy 3 times and he had 3 fucking migraines, you know. Maybe he's lying, maybe he's fine, maybe he just doesn't want to come out or whatever, or stuff like that. And it isn't. It's not that at all, you know. It's just what happens. It sucks. Like I said, I'm supposed to go and see fucking bands that I've just never seen because I've just been absolutely fucked, you know. And then you just end up sitting at home doing nothing because you think, well, why would I bother trying to do anything when I'm absolutely useless, you know. And it costs more. Being disabled, in one way or another, tends to cost more, whether it's socially or whether it's the spoons, you know. You got to spend your spoons across the course of the day. But just in general, like, you know, like, you got to spend a whole bunch of money buying thermals for the winter because, you know, you can't be cold because it absolutely wrecks. You know, you can't stay in your office job anymore because the office gets so cold that it just hurts you too much, and you're just crying in pain, hoping that nobody notices, but no one wants to fucking pay for heating. So what do? What do you do then? You know, I mean, you can become quite easily unemployable unless you get a good opportunity. And I was quite lucky there because that was a job that I could kind of, as long as I got the work done, I could kind of turn up as and when. So if I had migraines and things, it wasn't the end of the world. But sitting in that room was unbearable at times, you know. The winter is the worst time to have any kind of neuromuscular, physical ailment because the cold will fuck you up. It will fuck you up. And it's just miserable time. You know, you got to buy those extra supplements. You got to buy adaptions for your house or for your car, or those sorts of things. And then you can't earn as much money because, you know, you can't get a steady job. No one's going to employ somebody that has random migraines different times. Oh, you're heading to that meeting? No, sorry, I'm puking up my stomach lining. Well, this isn't going to work out, is it? No, I don't think it is. You know, that's why I'm self-employed, because I just can't cope with the issues around trying to work any kind of job where it's incredibly unpredictable as to as and when you're going to be able to be there and do the things, you know. People aren't ready. They come a long way, but people aren't necessarily ready to take those chances and take those punts, you know. And it's just, this is why it's such a shame that Remploy has disappeared, you know, in the last sort of 11 years. An agency that helps get disabled people into work and look after them. I mean, fuck, where's that gone? You know. So yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, it can be doable, but it depends. There's no blanket solution, is there? You know. So you gotta own your disability. You gotta mitigate your disability as much as you possibly can. You gotta do everything within your power to be as okay and as normal feeling for yourself, but also for everyone else around you. And then you also have to be productive, you know, because that's an easy route back into those doldrums, back into that depression, is just feeling unproductive. Oh, I don't have any work for 2 weeks. You know, the last couple of months I've had my bank balance has completely dropped to single digits, you know, and I'm worried about paying various bills and whatnot. Like, I've got a good track record now of over 2 years of not missing a single payment on anything, you know, and that has taken work because I can't budget. I got no concept of money. I just want to buy records all the time. If I get money, I'm like, this is my money. This is mine. Why would I want to spend it? Why would I want to pay bills? And, you know, I've spent the last couple of years maturing the fuck up, making sure bills are paid and those sorts of things, and trying to improve stuff like credit. I mean, I'm never going to get a mortgage. I'm unmortgageable. It doesn't matter what I do. I can't get a house, you know. And that's one of the things you need to consider before you go and get genetic mapping, because those genetic mapping things, I told you, they go down on certain records and they will get flagged. They get flagged because why do you need to be gene mapping? There's like, we're entering the world of Gattaca now. So, you know, personally, I won't be forking out for a property in the conventional way that other people do, you know, and that's not solely down to that, but it is a big factor, you know, because I'm a fucking hazard, like a risk, big financial risk, straight up. So yeah, you get these long periods where you don't have any work, or, you know, you're applying for jobs and nothing's happening. I can tell you now, if you tick that guaranteed interview disability tick box, it doesn't mean shit. It does not mean that you will get a guaranteed interview at all. It means that you may make the short list with a few sympathy points, but yeah, it's not that effective. And I mean, I probably have a job right now, you know. I've been going through this recently of trying to find bona fide proper work where I don't have to keep going out and looking for it for myself, you know. I mean, I'm taking jobs I really shouldn't be doing, you know, putting a floor down or going up ladders and whatnot. I mean, this risky shit, man, it wears me out and it's tiring, but you can't not earn money. You can't. Like, PIP, if there's anyone out there that thinks that the disability benefits is a fucking easy ride, it isn't. Alright? It's fucking harrowing. You gotta fill out all these crazy ass semantic fucking forms, and they have to be filled in a certain way in order to accrue points, but you won't know what that is until afterwards. They're not asking you what's wrong with you, they're asking how it affects you, and then they look at very specific terms and things that grant you points, and those points will equate to how much you can get, which really is only divided into two different tiers. And if you get the higher tiers, there's no guarantee that in 4 years' time, when you reapply, that they'll even consider you to be in the same or worse state. They'll just outright demote you, you know. It's absolutely horrendous. The amount of people who have lost out their disability cards over the last sort of 10 years by being demoted by people who are not medically trained professionals, coming to your house, recording you and asking you to do things. How violating is that? You imagine someone coming into your house and they start probing, asking you very, very personal questions about your health and how it affects you on a day-to-day basis. They don't know anything about your condition. They don't know anything. They don't know anything. These are administrators, and they come into your home, into your sanctuary, and ask you to stand on one leg, and ask if you can do things like peel potatoes and stuff. And they take those notes and they accrue points, and then they decide whether or not you can have enough money to pay for the rent on your property, or whether or not you can have a car. You might have the car, and they will take it the fuck off you, which is amazing, because that's a huge economic loss for the people that buy the car in the first place. It doesn't make any sense. The forecourt value will plummet. They take the car away off you. They're going to sell it. What? They're going to make a fucking ridiculous loss. They'll make more money just letting you keep the car and paying for it each week. You know, it's not a free car either. People will, you pay for it. You know, I mean, I wouldn't know. I've never had one, but I know people who have, and that's how it works. Basically, it's not, you don't just get all this stuff. You know, so you're like, okay, the benefit system helps definitely, and it's great that it's there, because it's not something that was there 50 years ago, maybe 100 years ago. If you were a cripple or a spastic or any of these things, you were fucked. Basically, if you couldn't join a freak show, you were fucked. So that's that element of it. So yeah, it's so easy to fall back into the horrendous depression. You'll start waking up in the middle of the night having panic attacks and anxiety attacks, because you start thinking that fucking nobody likes you, or you're a burden on them, or you're unemployable, you've got no place in this society other than to leech off of it in order to scratch out a bare existence. And does that sound appealing? No, it doesn't really. And then you have to try and overcome it and stuff. So there we go. Maybe I should have planned this out a bit more, because now I feel like I've gone on just a vague tirade about certain things. But you know, there's a lot about HSP and the whole situation that I feel I need to get off my chest, and I'm just hoping, I guess, that some people hear this and maybe there's points in it that they can reflect on or relate to, and just maybe feel less lonely. I mean, one of the things that's been a huge help to me has been the support group, and just that community, really. You know, I'm not even that involved, but it could just be so nice sometimes. Somebody will tell a story, you know, about how they've thrown a cup at the wall several times because their hand keeps spazzing out, and they'll make light of it. They'll make a joke about it, and you laugh with them, and you feel better. Or somebody will say, hey, does anyone get that strange deep sensation of weight at the back of their calf? And you think, oh Christ, yes, finally, thank you, somebody experiences that. And then 20 people and 30, 40 people will go, yes, oh. And then you spend the night up just trying to make some stupid name for this sensation, you know, and just making light of the whole thing, because it's just better than going through it on your own. And having people around you that are supportive is great, absolutely, but there will always be a disconnect between people who are healthy and fine and the people who aren't, because people who are healthy and fine just can only understand so much about what you're going through and how it feels and all those sorts of things, because they haven't felt it or they don't feel it. It's you know, it's an empathy with limits, which is why it always helps to know people that have the same thing or similar things, you know, because they get it, and that's not, you know, I don't want to devalue the support from anyone who is normal, quote unquote, to anyone who isn't normal, quote unquote. Like, keep doing what you're doing, keep being there, keep providing as much empathy or compassion as you can. You know, that's brilliant. I'm not saying that it's never enough or anything, just that, you know, I guess there just needs to be an understanding somewhere that you won't get it. You don't have to get it, you can't get it, it's impossible for you to get it, to fully understand what's going on. But that just the fact that you're trying is great. You know, you're helping somebody somewhere feel better about being crap, whether it's physically or mentally. So good on you. That's great. Well, it's been like an hour of me whittering away, and I gotta edit this, and it might not even be any good, to be honest. Now I just want to listen to some music and plod along the M4 a bit, go into a party with my wife, who exists. So yeah, I think it's a good time to love you and leave you. There are more things that I'd like to talk about, and I think we should just do it over time, really, and whatnot. You know, it could be a lot for you guys to take in if you're actively listening, and it's a lot for me to talk about, and my mind's already pretty scattered on it all, and you know, some of it might be depressing, some of it might be funny. I'll put some funny stories in there, like the time I got saved by a guy and a prostitute that he was with, and maybe the time that I was carjacked. That was interesting, you know. And we can also talk about something that I'm quite passionate about, which is access to marijuana for medical help. I mean, fuck it, as far as I'm concerned, it should be legal anyway. But yeah, some interesting anecdotes on that, and reflections and whatnot. So we'll approach that at some stage. But for now, I guess I just wanted to share some thoughts and rants about the general vibe of Hsp, dyspraxia, being on the autistic spectrum, being assessed as a child, what happens when you're over-medicated or they throw everything at you at once, the contraindications, all this kind of stuff. It's all there and existing. So hopefully together with my YouTubey friends, my 14 subscribers or 13 subscribers, we can dissect this subject matter in a way that's interesting, entertaining, sad, happy, and connecting, and so until then, end.